I am Goya of the bare field. By the enemy's beak gouged, till the craters of my eyes gape, I am grief. I am the tongue of war, the embers of cities on the snows of the year 1941. I am hunger. I am the ghost.
Ah ha ha ha! What? What? Ah ha!
Relax, Doc. We're time traveling. You should be excited.
What?
This will only take a second, folks. Quick, Jake, where do we go?
World War II.
That's what that poem happened.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
What?
1941. Here we go.
happening?
3, 2, 1.
What? Get down! Get down!
What?
My father wasn't on the battlefield. He was in Leningrad, evacuating buildings.
Leningrad?
Give me that.
Is this your house?
This is my house.
Nice place.
My house in Moscow, where I grew up. Follow me. I'll show you what you need. So you have some questions about Goya, da?
Yeah, we're not really sure what it means, like a whole Goya painter guy in World War II. Just help us out with that.
Lucky for you, the book happens to be right here. This was the book of Goya's paintings that my father showed me when I was a little boy. Now, Goya was a fantastic painter.
Make sure you're taking notes. Don't be like the dandy kid that Mrs. Swindle always talks about.
I got you.
Alright, go ahead.
Goya was a fantastic painter. His paintings were always so vast and realistic. Some of his most famous paintings were of World War II scenes. The paintings were always gory and lifelike, almost scaring the people who viewed the paintings.
Oh, I see. So you use Goya's paintings in some of your poems?
Yes, actually. I am Goya of the bare field. I know you already heard this. I am Goya of the bare field, by the enemy's beak gouged till the craters of my eyes gape. Now, I literally call myself Goya, because I am also painting a picture of the World War II scenes like Goya did. Only I use my words. First I describe the fighting, the death, and the grief created. Next I move to establish the setting, which happens to be in 1941, or during the siege of Leningrad. I use this event because it is close to me. My father helped evacuate some of the engineering factories he worked in during the siege. When he returned home from his duties, he gave me this book of Goya's paintings. Anyway, after establishing the setting, I continue to talk about the torture and other painful images during the fighting.
Oh, that clears a lot of things up, but I still don't get the last parts, like the grapes of wrath and hammering stars in the sky. What does that mean?
These last lines get a little tricky in comprehending. Many have commented on my weird imagination and sudden twists in my poems. It makes my poems confusing, but also has earned me many fans. O grapes of wrath, I have hurled westward the ashes of the uninvited guest, and hammered stars into the unforgetting sky, like nails. I am Goya. So the grapes of wrath should be easier to understand if you think more on the lines of fruit of war. The grapes of wrath literally just mean weapons. Blowing the enemies westward means how the Germans were sent packing home after the Russians were victorious. The last line is the trickiest. Hammering stars into the sky resembles the noise and the uproar the Russians had once victorious in their battle.
That was very helpful, Mr. Voz. Goya, check. Now, we just gotta move on. Next is Fire in an Architectural Institute. Where should we go for that?
I will take you two back to when the actual burning of the building occurred.
Radical.
The moment was extremely symbolic to me and put me on the path to becoming a poet.
Okay.
Alright, you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see it.
3, 2, 1.
Whoa!
Oh, whoa!
Whoa, this fight is so hot!
I remember it well. Anyway, this is where I spent most of my time before becoming a poet. This is the Architectural Institute in Moscow.
Wow.
For years I designed a bunch of projects here. My colleagues and I were working on a project for a while, when all of a sudden this enormous fire began. To be honest, I was almost happy when I saw the fire. The project was long and tiresome, and I had no motivation to keep working on it.
Ah, that's weird. It's kind of like the fire was supposed to happen or something. Well, you really haven't said much about the poem yet. Could you tell us a little more about it?
Follow me. It's funny that you said that, because actually I think the fire was supposed to happen. See, I think it was a symbol for me to move on and become a poet. I start off the fire in the architecture poem by describing how the fire moved through the building. The speed of the fire moved like an amnesty, or a legal pardon, through the jails. Again, my weird and confusing imagination pops up when describing this fire moving shamelessly, mischievously, like a red-assed baboon. The next steps I take in this poem describe the vast damage done by the fire. I start again with another metaphor, comparing all the wounded or burning paper as a red fall of leaves. But then I move to display a side of my writing you have not seen yet. Comedy and a wry sense of humor have also led to my great success. Before you can understand that, though, you have to take a look at the first stanza of this poem. When I compare the building to a jail, I hint my feelings toward the architect profession. I felt the Architect Institute was like a jail, trapping my true feelings and imagination. So, in the 6th stanza, I'm fairly sarcastic when I say farewell to the building and poke fun at the fact how much money and decoration went into the building, and now it's down to a cinder. And before moving into my final thoughts of the event, I throw in another metaphor to describe the fire like a phoenix, a firebird, flaunting its little red tongue, flying around the building, burning everything inside.
Dang, this poem sure has a lot. Can you just hurry and finish this one up so we get on the next thing?
Hold your horses. Lastly, I describe how this event was a major symbol to me. I felt that when the building burned down, it was a symbol to me to move on in life. Everything's gone up in smoke, and there's no end of people sighing. It's the end? It's only the beginning. Let's go to the movies. The 8th stanza is pretty easy to comprehend. It's basically saying the longer you live, eventually what you're currently doing is going to burn up, and you will have to move on. I give a sudden twist of meaning in the last lines of the poem, stating how everyone is bummed out that the building burned down, but how I think that we can worry about it some other time and head out to the movies.
Oh, alright. Well, that one's perfect. Here, check that one off for the list. Alright, where to next? Cashier. Where should we go for cashier?
I think we should head to an old marketplace. That's where the poem took place. Here we go.
You guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoa, geez, look at everybody freaking out, man. You gotta chill out a little bit here. Just trying to buy something.
This is a famous place to hear all the peasants' foul mouths and true colors of what they think of the government.
Mr. Voz, what do you think about the government?
Well, starting as a child, my thoughts on the communist government in Russia were influenced. My mother used to read me poems written by Boris Pasternak. I quickly became fond of Pasternak and decided to send him some of my own poems. Pasternak was thrilled to have a youthful child sharing poetry with him, so he wrote me back and invited me to his home for a visit. We made a strong relationship, and he became my mentor. His negative feelings for the communists were installed in me and led me to write this next poem, Cashier.
To be honest, Mr. Voz, I don't really understand your views on the government. Could you explain it a little bit more?
Of course. The first lines describe the poverty the peasants face. This peasant complains that the market owner rips off the buyers. Naturally, the seller retaliates and rises like dough from her glass cage. My techniques take face in this poem again. The fighting between the buyer and the seller starts a riot, shown by the odd metaphor, a sudden smell of tears and ozone. During the riot, foul language is frequently exchanged. Somebody swears or gives off, say, Beethovenish roar, another piece of humor, further establishing the scene of the riot.
Oh, that's all great, Mr. Voznesensky, but I don't really get this poem. See, they're like in this riot, and all of a sudden it's like this one guy. So, could you kind of tell us what happens here?
How they get from the big riot to one person?
Yeah.
I was just getting to that. So we go from a riot and transition into this guy trying to buy something from the cashier. He hands her a bill with Lenin's profile on the front and is acting very nervous, drumming his hands on the glass plate. The cashier takes notice of the man's weird actions and holds the bill up to the light to see if Lenin's profile looked all right, meaning she is checking for a counterfeit. Let me read the last stanza for you. But Lenin wasn't there anymore. The bill was counterfeit. It was a grocery store where people and farces meet.
Whoa, we're farces.
Well, they're kind of like you two. Foolish and unknowing of what kind of trouble they could get into.
Thanks, Mr. Voss. Is that a compliment?
No.
Alright, well, we should probably get to the next poem. What is June 68 about, Mr. Voss?
That one is about the death of Robert Kennedy. We will go back to the day he was shot. June 5th, 1968 in Los Angeles. We should actually be able to see the scene go down.
Aye.
All right, whatever you say, sir. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1. What the heck are we doing in the kitchen?
Whoa.
This is actually right where Mr. Kennedy was shot. We're inside the Ambassador Hotel. This reason I wrote a whole poem about Mr. Kennedy was because of the relationship I established with him. When living in Russia during the rule of Khrushchev and during the Thaw era, censorship was decreasing but still significant. The Cashier and some of my other poems against the Russian government caused Khrushchev to kick me out of the Soviet Union. I was a wanderer after that, and ended up in the United States, where I met Mr. Kennedy.
Alright, let's finish this up. Give us the layout, Mr. Vaz.
The poem starts by acknowledging the death of Kennedy. Everyone was aware that something absolutely wrong happened when he was shot, shown in the second stanza. Of foreign politics, not much may be understood, but I do understand a white cheek bathed with blood.
Alright, so give us a little more information on this innocent guy. What does he have to do with all this?
Well, like Mr. Kennedy, Yesenin was extremely passionate. Unfortunately, Yesenin had problems with alcoholism and eventually was brought into a mental institution. He was driven so mentally insane that he wrote his farewell poem in his own blood. This was after he committed suicide. All of this for public effect. The whole point of mentioning Yesenin is comparing to how you need to be careful when being so passionate, because it can often lead to harming yourself.
Keep going, we're almost done. We need to know the rest of the poem.
The next stanzas are pretty basic. It states how everyone jumped to the TV when hearing the news of Kennedy being shot. After that, I explain one of my previous meetings with the Kennedy family. I was having dinner at the White House, and I remember looking out the window and seeing the apple trees. After Robert Kennedy was shot, I thought of those apple trees every time Robert came to mind. Apple trees, curse those bloody trees. The last two lines are a sudden twist, honoring that we should feel grief when thinking of Kennedy or the apple trees, and to let this grief act as a guard to Kennedy's legacy and not let something like this happen again.
Oh my God! We gotta get out of here!
Okay, quick, we're gonna get framed for this murder. Vaz, you wanna come with us?
Yes, I will come with you and help teach your class about my poems. Whatever's left.
Okay, quick, let's go. 3, 2, 1.